When we think about knowledge, what comes to mind? Probably books, right? Libraries, facts, things we write down. But what if some of the most important truths aren't written down at all? What if they're lived? What if they're practiced and carried in our very bodies? So let's start with something you can actually touch, the act of basket weaving. The scholar Shelby Nahuatl Meissner has this really beautiful way of putting it. She says it's an act of visiting. Just think about that for a second. It's not just about making a basket. It's a way of connecting to the land, to your ancestors, to a whole way of being. It's a practice that grounds you. And this really gets us to the big question we're tackling here. What if we look at this differently? What if the whole process, choosing the right materials, the feel of the weave, the rhythm of the pattern, what if all of that is actually a form of thinking, a way of knowing the world with your hands? Okay, so to really get how an action like weaving could be a form of thought, we kind of have to take a step back and look at the whole idea of truth itself. And I don't mean just talking about different facts. We're talking about a completely different kind of truth. All right, check this out. In a lot of Western philosophy, the main focus is on what's called propositional knowledge. That's knowing that something is true. For example, knowing that Paris is the capital of France. It's a static fact. But many indigenous philosophies put the emphasis on procedural knowledge. That's knowing how. It's all about skillful action. In this way of seeing things, truth isn't some fixed statement. It's found in the successful doing of something. So this brings us to this core idea of procedural truth. Basically, something is true if the action you're doing is successful, and it's done in a good, respectful way. For example, a story is considered true not because every single historical detail is perfect, but because telling it achieves its goal. Maybe it teaches a vital lesson or strengthens the bonds of the community. Truth is something you do, and do well. Now, let's look at another really powerful example. So just like weaving puts knowledge into the hands, other practices can transmit it through the entire body. If truth is an action, then our bodies are ground zero for knowledge. A perfect example? Dance. I absolutely love this quote from Jerry Longboat. It is in the bones. He's saying that dance is so much more than entertainment. It's a living archive. The body itself is holding and passing on knowledge. When people dance, they are literally embodying ancient stories, making wisdom from generations ago come alive, right here, right now. And this kind of knowing, this embodied knowledge, well, it comes from all sorts of places that go way beyond just rational thought. We're talking about knowledge that comes from dreams and visions, from deep intuition, sometimes called the inscape, or from practices like a vision quest. And then there's this really incredible concept called blood memory. Blood memory is this amazing idea that knowledge can actually be a physical inheritance. It suggests that memories, skills, and wisdom from our ancestors are literally passed down through our bodies, across generations. It's a kind of knowledge that you feel, that you can tap into. It's a direct link to the past, living right inside you. So, when you start thinking like this, that knowledge is in the body, it's an action, it comes from dreams and intuition, you pretty quickly arrive at a worldview that just doesn't fit into the neat, rigid boxes of classical Western logic. I mean, a cornerstone of Western logic for thousands of years has been this idea called the law of the excluded middle. It says any statement is either true or it's false. It cannot be both. There's no gray area, no third option. It creates a very binary, black and white way of seeing the world. And this story from Charles Eastman just illustrates the clash perfectly. He tells of an indigenous elder talking to a missionary. The missionary tells his creation story, and the indigenous people listen respectfully. They accept it as his truth. But when they share their own creation story, the missionary immediately dismisses it as false. And the elder asks this profound question. Basically, we accepted your story. Why can't you accept ours? Why can't both be true for our different people? This operates on a totally different principle, one that the philosopher V.F. Cordova called the principle of diverse creations. The idea is that different people came into being in their own unique places and times. So naturally, each group's description of the world, their truth, is understood to be local and totally valid within its own context. There's no single universal story that has to erase all the others. Multiple truths can absolutely coexist. So what does it actually mean to live in a world like that? A world where truth isn't some fixed point you have to find, but it's a dynamic, flowing process, where reality itself is always in motion. Well, V.F. Cordova gives us this amazing metaphor. She said her father described life as constantly shifting sand. Your job isn't to find solid ground, because there isn't any. Your duty is to stand on a plank on top of all that shifting sand and just maintain your balance. It's such a beautiful image. Wisdom isn't about having a fixed answer. It's about learning how to dance with a constantly changing reality.
And that really brings it all back home, doesn't it? It makes you wonder, what truths are written in your own life, not in books, but in what you do? What knowledge do you carry in your hands, in your body, that you could never fully write down on a page?